Let's talk politics and let's talk the latest polls. Who's in the lead? Who's in danger of losing party status altogether? Joining me is Nik Nanos, chair of Nanos Research, also the co-host of a new CTV News podcast called Trendline, 15-minute episodes 3 times a week, and you can get that where all fine podcasts are streamed and downloaded. Nik, good morning.
Great to join you.
Yes, it's great to talk to you. So listen, I'm looking at these polls. I've seen a whole bunch of them. They show a race that seems to be pretty neck and neck with the Conservatives and the Liberals and the Conservatives. What are you seeing, Nick?
Yeah, so basically the first part of the campaign has basically been a dead heat between the Liberals and the Conservatives. But when we look at the trend line right now, 3 or 4 days ago, the Conservatives were trailing the Liberals a little bit. Now we have the Conservatives at 36%, the Liberals at 35%, NDP 15%, Green Party 7%, Bloc 5%, People's Party at around 2%. So what we've seen is some positive movement in favor of the Conservatives over the last few days, and also some positive movement in favor of Andrew Scheer.
And so what do you think's pushing that?
Well, I don't think, can I tell you, luck counts, not just in life, but in politics. It was pretty clear, day one, Andrew Scheer came out swinging, called Justin Trudeau a liar, and talked about ethics. So he came out swinging. He had his advertising in the bag and ready to launch out, which he launched his negative attack ads within a day or so. And then at the same time, his piece of luck was the release of the Globe and Mail story on the SNC-Lavalin controversy. And I think you roll up all of those things, and what we saw was Justin Trudeau back on his heels on the official launch of the campaign. And right now in the CTV Nanos Globe tracking, it looks like Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives are picking up a little steam, a lot of them from undecided voters.
It's interesting you mentioned how the Conservatives were ready to go and the advertising that was ready. We have heard that they had done a particularly good job at fundraising and that their coffers were full, and that was going to help them there. So perhaps that's what we're seeing here. Full coffers, full-on campaign, and it's moving the needle.
Yeah, and the other interesting trend that we've seen in the last number of days is a bit of a decline for the Green Party of Canada. Lots of chit chat at the beginning of the campaign about the Greens and whether this will be their breakthrough moment. They had about 10%. About 10 days ago, they were at about 10% nationally. Now they've slid down a bit to around 6 to 7%. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that happens. And one of the things perhaps which happened was when the Green Party picked up support, maybe those weren't people that were necessarily environmentalists and into global warming. They just might have been progressive voters or voters that were disappointed ethically with Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, kind of an ethical safe haven, the Green Party. And looking at what's happened in the last couple of days, those voters that are driven by ethics have decided to opt with the Conservatives.
But do you have any indication that perhaps the people had sort of gone away from the NDP towards the Green camp, and now as the campaign has started, they're actually going back to where they came from?
No, actually, the NDP, and this is the good and the bad news for the NDP, their trend line has been unchanged, including Jagmeet Singh's personal trend line. So, he started off the campaign. He's not losing any ground, but he has not gained any ground. So the primary movement that we've seen in the last while has been for the Conservatives and also relates to the Green Party. And it's also been interesting what's happened in the province of Quebec over the last number of days.
Tell me about this battleground, Quebec itself, because when I look at this campaign, I'm sort of seeing it's regional races, there's something else happening in BC, and then you got the Western province, and Ontario is going to be a battleground, but so is Quebec. This is a real big prize in this election.
Well, if we fast forward to September 6th when we did polling, the Liberals had a massive 25-point advantage over the Conservatives, NDP, and Green, which were basically tied for second, between 13 and 14% respectively. So fast forward that 25-point advantage. Fast forward 11 days later is now only about 15 points. The Liberals are down to 35%. We have the Conservatives doing well. The the Conservatives and Bloc trending up. Bloc now at 21% in the province. Conservatives at 19%, which is good for them. NDP back at 13%. Green Party at 7% at the province of Quebec, and the People's Party at 3%. So what we've seen is that 25-point advantage that the Liberals enjoyed in Quebec basically 10 days ago has now become a 15-point advantage, and we're seeing in Quebec both the Bloc Québécois and the Conservatives trending up.
Speaking with Nik Nanos, the chair of Nanos Research, tracking the polls here as we progress through this election campaign. Nik, you mentioned when you go through those poll numbers, and you mentioned the national numbers. Now you just mentioned the Quebec numbers right there at the end. The PPC and Maxime Bernier, 3% nationally, 3% in Quebec, 2% nationally. But of course, the news yesterday was that they are invited. They've accepted an invitation to the debate. One of that third reason that was up there as to why they would be invited for the debate, that they have a reasonable chance at winning in this election, winning some ridings. They pointed out 5 ridings themselves, the People's Party of Canada, that they feel they've got a shot at. What do you see? Do you see them actually having a shot at winning 1 or 2 ridings?
Well, they obviously have a shot in the statistical modeling that we do at winning Beauce, which is Maxime Bernier's seat. He's got a strong personal following, him and his family, and it's ground zero, right? So let's face it, if he can't win his riding, I'm not sure if anyone else is going to win a riding for the PPC. So right now the election's not done yet, but right now that would be probably the riding that is the most heavily favored to go PPC right now.
Gotcha.
Beyond that, it's really too early to tell, but this debate is going to be critical for the People's Party of Canada. It'll provide them with a platform, and we have to remember the People's Party of Canada right now, it is a party, but it's also a movement. It doesn't have the same kind of loyalty, infrastructure, boots on the ground compared to the other more traditional parties, as the established parties. So this debate and Maxime Bernier basically having equal time with all of the federal party leaders is critical for them because they don't have as much money. It's earned media, and it'll allow them to get their message out. How effective he does in the debate, or any of the federal parties do in the debate, no one knows. But for Maxime Bernier, it puts him back in the game. If he was not in the debate, it would just the election would have just been more difficult because he doesn't have the same type of organization and coin that the other established parties have.
Nik Nanos, the chair of Nanos Research and also the co-host of a new CTV News podcast called Trendline. You can download, stream that wherever you get your fine podcast. Thanks so much, Nik.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.